One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. Then let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm standing at the crossroads, I'm feeling like a lost soul. Don't know where I wanna go, but all I know is I wanna be free. They're telling me to let it be, but that just ain't in me, no. Jealousy and envy, but all I see is I wanna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Don't let it get the most of me. Eventually, I'm gonna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm gonna be free. Let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I told them take their aim off me. Stop trying to get a name off me. If they would just let me be, I'm gonna be free. I told them take them chains off me and throw away the locks and keys. If they would just let me be, eventually I'm gonna be free.
They're back.
What up, though? What up, though? What up, though? 7 days, and we're back again for another deep dive into one of these stories and on the Dominant Effect podcast. I'm Archbishop, no leaguer. So before we get started, like always, we got to check and see what everybody done for the week. So we'll start with you, Aaron. What's up with you, brother? I heard you a little under the weather today, so we're going to
have me a gun show this weekend at Butler County. A lot of people standing around coughing, hacking, nobody covering their mouth. I didn't have a mask with me, so now I'm sick. So I have my little Theraflu in a cup here, so I'm going to be sipping on it while we're doing the show. But I'll stop there.
Hey, Aaron, I feel you. I'm drinking on a little Makers and Coke, so that
Okay.
that's I think the best way to solve an illness. But so this last week, I'm sorry that I missed the Dominant Effect last week. You guys had a great topic last week, and I wish I would have been able to be a part of it. But I was able to see my daughter, something that was very much needed. It was much needed for the soul. I mean, it's been unfortunately 11 months since I've seen her. And man, that was something that was much needed. And even when I was there, even though I've grown up in California and in that exact area for 29 years, I'm just glad that I was able to spend all of that time with her. You know what I mean? And when I wasn't around her, I was on standby for her. So I'll make that trip to be able to go visit other people and stuff like that. But I wanted to make that first roundabout prioritize for my daughter.
That's good. That's good. I mean, I seen the little pictures and the videos you had online. So it was. I mean, I know it's always good to, especially baby girl. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's super special.
Right.
Super special.
Yeah, she looked like she was really excited to see you too. So it was.
Yeah, man. I'm going to be honest. That was something that I was a little scared of. You know, she's only, about to be 3. And so when I left her 11 months ago, I was kind of afraid that she may not even recognize me, and right when I showed up, it was instant, like huge eyes. And it was like, oh my God, dad's here, And so it just did me well for the soul.
Yeah, that just kind of warms your heart right there, don't it?
Oh,
You see that?
totally. Like I was totally worried about that. Like she may not even know who the fuck you are, homeboy. And sure as shit though, she knew exactly who I was.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad you had a good time there, man. Yeah, man. Sorry we missed you last week, but we knew you was handling business, but we kept it
Trucking.
kept it going. On this side, like I said, everything going pretty good. Got some stuff I've been working on and trying to get manifested. So I've been working on that quite a bit. For the most part, I mean, everything good, family good, so I thank God for that. And like I said, everything pretty much copacetic. I'm saying I'm in that grinding mode right now. So
yeah, especially with your movie ordeal. You're not just doing a career and what you're doing by yourself, and then this show, but then you're doing a lot more on top of that. It seems.
yeah, I'm doing a lot on that. Actually, quite a bit on that. Like I said, we're getting ready to start on the Nasty Truth. That's number 4. We starting on that should be coming up here real soon. Actually, it worked out some stuff dealing with that entertainment company. Some stuff in the works dealing with that. So like I said, it's a lot of stuff that I'm doing right now. But like I said, just everybody know the word of prayer. Say a prayer for me if I can get all this done. So, but like I said, I got some good people behind me that's working behind the scenes, working on some other stuff that frees me up to that way I can focus on this stuff here. So everything's working out. I can't complain. So this week, the topic I picked, reason why I picked this topic is because with all the tension that's going on throughout, and we've actually brought NATO up several times in discussion, but we never actually talked about it.
True.
Talked about exactly who they are, the reasons why they are who they are, and what's the stance on them now. Because right now they're in unity or division type scenario, and we're going to get into that more as we go through it. But I wanted to touch base on that though, because I don't think a lot of people really realize exactly what NATO does, the reason why we have them, and what would happen if there was no NATO.
Sure.
Well, so we're going to dig down into a little bit of all of it. So I think I'll start out first. I'm going to start out first by telling you exactly what NATO is, which is a North American Treaty Organization. They started in 1949 during the aftermath of World War II, primarily as a counter threat to the Soviet Union.
Right.
And to ensure their collective security amongst its members. They started their headquarters in Brussels, Belgium. Is where their main headquarters is. But after World War II, Europe was basically devastated and politically unstable. The Soviet Union was expelling their own influence across the East, which alarmed the Western countries. So the U.S., Canada, and several other Western European nations decided they were going to make this formal alliance that would guarantee mutual defense if something ever happened dealing with the Soviet Union. So back then, the only other superpower that anybody was even worried about was the Soviet Union. At this point, China was, was like a third world country.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even care.
You're right.
But on April 4th of 49, you had 12 countries that signed the North Atlantic Treaty in Washington, D.C., and that was the U.S., Canada, UK, France, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Norway, Denmark, Iceland, and Portugal.
Damn. Look at you.
So
on point.
but they, with all the rules dealing with NATO, there was only one that actually stands out, and that was Article 5. And Article 5 of the treaty, the clause states that any attack on one member is basically an attack on all. So you fight in one country, you're gonna fight all of them. So that's like the little rundown as to exactly what NATO was. Now, after, let me see, I think it was 1952 when Greece and Turkey joined NATO, and that was more of a strategy during the Cold War era when the Cold War first started. So them two jumped in as like more of a strategic move, being closer to the Soviet Union. And then in 55, you had Western Germany that joined. Now, following that, of course, the Soviet Union realized this is what they're doing, and then they jumped up and started the Warsaw Pact in 1955. And that one consisted of the Soviet Union, Albania, Poland, East Germany, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, and let me see, Bulgaria and Romania. So they all joined up, basically to serve as a counter to NATO. So then that went along. So you had both of these powers going back and forth. And they went on all the way up until roughly 1989 to 91 is when they started declining, and they officially disbanded in 91 because the Soviet influence collapsed. That was the actual fall of the Soviet Union, and a lot of the Eastern European countries transitioned over to a democracy, more market style economy. So that basically collapsed, and a lot of these countries that was in the Warsaw Pact end up signing over to NATO. But now the reason why it's so important is that you got Russia's war in Ukraine. That's NATO's core mission right now.
Yep.
For this collective defense that actually prompted this increased defense spending and a greater strategic coalition, all this. So that was what really kind of jump started it.
Mm-hmm.
For right now. And then you have to you got to bring on the fact they added Finland, they added Sweden. They kind of demonstrated a growing trust between NATO security, because they wanted to be up on that NATO security umbrella, so to speak. And
at one point, it really meant something.
Right. And this was also partially because of the Russian aggression in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
So now they have, so you think you got this old organization that now has to get more into the 21st century. You know what I mean? Because you're dealing now, it's not just tanks and guns now. I mean, you're dealing with AI, you're dealing with cyber,
Airstrikes,
right?
ICBMs.
Right.
Yeah.
High readiness forces, all of that. You know what I mean? Even space. So it's a lot that they dealing with now. So but now you also got to bring on the division part of this, because you have several, take like right now, you got where you have India and Pakistan getting ready to go back and forth. Okay, well, you got Turkey that's sending weapons over to Pakistan. You got China sending weapons over to Pakistan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got the US that's trying to make trade deals with India. You know what I mean? But Turkey is in NATO on the opposite side, which Turkey has also been on the opposite side dealing with Israel and some other things too. So it's,
That's right.
so it's there's a lot of stuff going on there where you have these countries that's supposed to be all in this group, but now they're kind of branching out on their own a little bit, you know, and then a lot of them are complaining now about the fact that one country may not be putting in as much as the next country or whatever. So you got that division there.
Money wise.
Right.
Right.
So we're gonna jump into all of that, you know what I mean, to see, like, as of right now, is NATO as strong as they say they are, with or without the US? And
That's a good
is
question.
is this more right now of like a, you know, everybody talks and get into this overall union, this cohesion that they had before, or is this going to be some division that would actually break it up? So what do you think, Aaron?
I think there's going to be some division, because right now I know for a fact that Germany, they fought the Russians in World War I and in World War II. And Russia basically tore their country up when they came into Germany. Germany don't want to fight World War III against Russia. So they're talking about taking a neutral position. And there's a couple other countries, including Spain and one of the Norwegian countries, that's talking about taking a neutral stance. And it still won't make a difference, because to get to France and Belgium and some of them others, Russia's going to have to come through Germany and Poland anyway. So wherever they want their country to be destroyed or messed up, it's going to go down either way it goes, because that's where the battleground's going to be. But I'll stop there.
Yeah, you can see that there's visible cracks there.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, unity isn't always guaranteed. So
right.
One of the disagreements that they're gonna have to deal with, that they have been dealing with, is Russia. That's been their biggest one, is because you have some of these countries that want to send troops into Ukraine, like France and Great Britain. They want to send troops. We ain't sending nobody there. You know what I mean? And then you have the whole issue with China, because some of these members that's in NATO are economically tied to Beijing, like the US as well.
Yes.
But the US, they're tied to them on one end, but on the other end, they see them as a threat. So to them, they could go either way. But you have some of these countries that's dead set, you know what I mean? Like their whole economic structure is built around what they're getting from China. So they'll take a bigger hit if something happened. You know what I mean? So just like you was talking about dealing with Germany, which is probably one of the reasons why they trying to be more neutral in this thing now, because a lot of these countries got more to lose.
True.
If they jump. So now on top of that, now you can't ignore the internal policies in these countries, like Hungary and the possibility of what's going to go on in this administration, or as long, you know what I mean, in future administrations. They don't know what's going to go on. So right now, a lot of people are saying that NATO isn't considered as a shield. It's considered more of a burden. So what do you take on that?
Real quick, I think it's a burden on U.S. Us alone, the amount of money that we spend compared to the rest of the countries. Now, here's the thing about NATO. Originally, it was against the Soviet Union, essentially. Now, this is when it was a fear that Russia wanted to take over the world, blah, 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 all this BS. The truth is I think Russia just wants to be Russia, and they don't give a fuck about anyone else. And I think that America's taking kind of the same stance. At this point, I think that NATO needs to go under a regime to an extent, and not necessarily be 100% against Russia. You know, I think it should be against out of all of outside sources, and they shouldn't be the primary number one. At this point, I think that NATO has become a very biased organization, just like the UN, very biased. And I can't blame them. If I made my own organization, speaking out, you know, anecdotal, I would be biased too. So I understand. But at this point, that I look at NATO as something that needs to be totally reformed, and it needs to not be directed exactly at Russia. It needs to be actually looked at towards the Middle East.
Well, I kind of think, but right now, I think the reason why a lot of them is actually focused on Russia has been the fact of the neighboring countries around Russia are in NATO.
You're right.
So I think that's primarily
and Russia, granted, they hate having NATO on their borders at all, hence why the Ukrainian war is in the first place. So I understand that Russia looks at NATO as being a number one enemy, essentially, to their state, and I can't blame them. But I think at this point, it needs to be redirected, the focus. You know, this is not 1949 anymore. This is 2025. I think it should be reformed to an extent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can agree with you on that. No, go ahead, Aaron. What you got?
Oh, I'd like to add something to that. Right now, the world economies are really almost in the trash. Everybody, and Russia's is really in the trash due to the sanctions and stuff that we have on them with the oil. And here recently, we just announced that anyone trading oil or buying Iranian oil will receive double U.S. sanctions. So the sanctions are being weaponized and being used to force people into compliance. They want to trade with the U.S. or trade with Iran. And the same thing with Soviet Union. The Soviet Union, North Korea, China, Iran, their economies are wrecked almost. They're looking to expand. They have expansionist ideals, because if you can take over smaller countries, rob them of their mineral wealth, you can just about get yourself out of the trash can if you can strip somebody else of the material wealth or whatever their products are that they're trading. You can take that over, then you become the big daddy on the block, and people want those products. They got to come to you to get them. You can set the market value at whatever you want. Plus, if your economy is needing oil or whatever, you target specific countries. I mean, Russia, due to U.S. sanctions in past, they started growing their own food. When they went into Ukraine, they did target areas that had high mineral wealth, but they also targeted farmland. And a part of the EU proposal that they have out there right now, which is a fantasy, because I've got 10 of the items wrote down of the 14 that they're proposing. Russia's no ways going to go for any of it. But I mean, if you want, I could read some of those, or we could bring it up later in the show.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. Say what you got.
First item. They want to build a defense treaty with Britain and France. Ukraine does. So if they're attacked, Britain and France is going to come to save them. Russia's not going to agree to that. That the dispute on the territorial concessions, Crimea, Donbass, other areas that Russia's taken, they're going to keep that. They want to be able to keep those lands because it was paid for in Russian blood. Ukraine is not going to agree to that. They want their original borders back. Russia's not going to give it back. Russia must return all seized children. I didn't know that they were seizing the kids and deporting them out. I guess using them for hostages, but they must return all the seized children. Russia must release all Ukrainian civilians. So apparently they've rounded up a bunch and deported them out. They want security guarantees for Ukraine, but Russia wants no NATO troops inside Ukraine. Then Ukraine cannot join NATO. That's specifically for Russia, but we know that Ukraine wants to join NATO, and if they can't join NATO, then they want nukes. No restrictions on Ukrainian forces. Russia wants to limit the amount of soldiers that Ukraine can have. And in fact, originally, they didn't want them to have any. So they want restrictions where Ukraine does not want no restrictions on the amount of forces that they can have. They want unrestricted European presence in Ukraine. They want the right to be able to put NATO forces inside Ukraine. Russia said a definite no to that. Then to try to get Russia to go for it, they put a carrot on the stick, and they said that France and Great Britain said, we'll see to it the United States drops sanctions against Russia. You can't guarantee that. I mean, that's nonsense. So I don't know if everybody realizes it or not, but this past weekend, all the peace talks, Middle East, Ukraine, everywhere, they all collapsed, all at the same time. I mean, is that a coincidence or what? But right now, we're on the edge of a major war. But I'll stop there for right now.
Yeah, major war ahead of us for real.
Now, okay, so you said that Ukraine said that they wanted to be able to have nukes or what? What was the other thing you were saying?
Well, originally, they wanted to be able to join the UN. Russia said no. So Ukraine's attitude was, well, if we're not going to be allowed to join the UN, we want to have nukes, which before they agreed to the nuclear proliferation treaty, they was the most heaviest nuclear armed country in Europe for a long time. But then they agreed to give up their nukes. Russia agreed never to invade them, and the United States agreed to come to their aid if they did get invaded. And we already see how that turned out. So they want to be able to join NATO to have their security. And if they're not allowed to join NATO, they want the right to be able to purchase nukes.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, now, so you got one or the other. So like at one time, Ukraine did have nukes at one time.
Yeah, a lot.
And then that's when they went back in December 94 and signed that Budapest memorandum, which basically said that they would give up their nukes, but they would be protected if something happened to them.
Yep.
And these same countries agreed to that. So it's kind of what they're asking for is like, okay, we had nuclear weapons before. We agreed to give them up. You guys said that y'all would protect us by us giving these up, but you haven't. I mean, like you giving us. I mean, like you giving us weapons and stuff, of course, but you haven't sent anybody in here to actually quote unquote fight right along with us. So technically, did you did you do your obligation? In one sense, yes. In one sense, no. So it's kind of like, okay, you either like put me in NATO to where I know that y'all going to have to protect me, or don't protect me. I'll get my nukes back. No harm, no foul.
You talking about Ukraine?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, I just want to point out, Mr. Mister says, yes, Ukraine wanted nukes, and the U.S. said, no, we will protect you, not with your nukes, but with ours. That broke the U.S.-Russia agreement. Now, the one question I want to ask you guys on the panel is, do you think it's general knowledge that we have a Russia-Ukraine-U.S. agreement that people don't even know about? That
That's
this happened long ago, but that
yeah.
people don't understand that all three have an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd say the majority of U.S. population don't know. Majority of news going on right now with India and Pakistan is flying right over top of people's heads.
You're right,
I mean,
100%.
if it don't directly impact them, they don't pay no attention. I say 75% don't pay it no never mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Just like on April 30th of this year. I don't know if you guys know it or not, but Zelensky signed a rare earth mineral deal with the United States,
Yes. Yes.
agreeing to sell us the minerals. But keep in mind, back in February, they signed a similar deal with Britain. So, and that's the reason why they got into that argument in the White House that time, because we called them trying to double dip. And the president and the vice president treated Zelensky kind of rude over that. But now on the 30th, they didn't sign this deal, but the deal also includes them getting weapons from us and also getting money to try to reconstruct Ukraine. Now, they're a war zone right now. To spend money on reconstruction is ridiculous unless you're confident the war's about to end. That doesn't make any sense. So maybe they're going to try to sue for peace here, but unless they're prepared to give up a large part of their country to Russia, there ain't going to be no peace. Russia could fight them for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And it won't hardly put a dent in their population, but it would just about eliminate the majority of the Ukrainian population.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that actual treaty was in '94, Mike. It was
1994. So
yeah.
1 year before I was even born, I was -1.
Yeah, it was December 5th of
Yeah.
'94.
Okay.
But it was originally signed by 4 nuclear powers. It was
Okay.
Ukraine, Russia, United States, United Kingdom, France, and China. They
Wait, I
all
didn't know.
signed on it.
I didn't know the UK, China, and France were involved.
Yeah, they
I thought
all
this was a Russia, Ukraine, and United States. Now, that's me being honest. You know what I mean? I could play that off easy, but I didn't know that. That's very interesting. I thought there was only 3.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, they all signed on this.
Wow.
And
So 1994, huh?
yeah, they all signed on that they were, basically they would agree to get, and in return, they would agree to protect them. You know what I mean? Now is one of the ones that actually signed this treaty with them, one of the ones that invaded them. You know what I mean? But this was the agreement that they had came up with.
Wow.
I mean, so what do you do? I mean, you got to do one or the other.
You're
Either
right. You're right.
Because
Damn straight.
because technically you promised it to them. Technically, that's what you did. You promised to defend them if they gave this up, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Now you gave them weapons, yes, but he's like, okay, I'm gonna give you these weapons. You go out there on your own and defend yourself. We're not gonna get involved in it, which they are involved in it because this, this whole proxy war been going on since 22.
Dude, well, yeah.
So this is because this has
It's
been
been
going on.
it's been 1,300 days or 1,200 days since the war has begun over there. Real quick, I just want to answer Jason. He says, Mike Ball, did you ever learn about any of this in school? And the answer is no. I learned all of my history, all of that crap, believe it or not, from the YouTube University. You know what I mean? Did not learn any of it in school. It was not in the textbook. It was nothing to be found. We never talked about it. This was never a discussion in my class, and I was class of 2013. So I know that's not that long ago, but that's the truth. That's the truth. We weren't taught any of that shit. I had to learn all of this on my own.
Mm-hmm. See, now on top of all this, now you still got the issue with burden sharing. What I mean by that is, like, the U.S. spends more money on defense than most of all these members
Way
combined.
more money than anyone else ever. Yeah.
Right. So they had initially set up that every country that was in NATO would bring their GDP up to at least 2% to be able to, everybody was on
2% GDP or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So that way everybody would pretty much be on the same accord when it came to actually, spending money.
Right.
A lot of these countries haven't done that. A lot of these countries have fallen way short of that. Some of them is like right at 1%, maybe 1.5.
0.7,
you know what I mean?
0.7 some. Yeah.
Right. So so that imbalance that you have there, being that the US is spending this amount and everybody else is spending less, is what's causing a lot of the resentment and the skepticism going on with that, because they're like, okay, why are we doing ABC and they ain't doing this? But whenever something go on, we the first ones that got to jump in and take care of the stuff. You know what I mean? So that's what the big thing is right now. You know what I mean? When they switched administration, now you got the Trump administration, and this is one of the things that they're talking about is, okay, so we're in NATO and we spending this amount, you guys ain't spending this amount, you ain't even agreed to the 2%, so why should we even stick around and do this? Okay,
valid
what
question.
what happens if you have some of these major powers pull back? You know what I mean? So what do you think would happen?
Well, if the United States pulled back, NATO would automatically lose $800 million that we contribute, and that we contribute the majority of the manpower.
You think that's all we give them?
I'm sure we give them much more.
You think that's all we give them?
But
okay.
With all the powder kegs that are happening around the world right now, and we're moving forces into the Middle East, and we're keeping our eye on Africa, and we're looking at other areas where hot spots are happening. We basically told NATO and Europe that they're going to have to hold their own for a minute. We may get tied down in the Middle East and get tied down with China, and we might have to move some of our forces that way. So they got to be able to hold their own. I mean, look at Great Britain, where they got total force of 70,000. That's it. Soviets can throw millions at you. So, and then China's going to help them. North Korea is going to help them. So you're going to have to be able to muscle up. Now, yeah, a lot of our stuff is more sophisticated. We can kill people in large numbers, but we had that advantage when we were in North Korea, and China was a third world country, and they fought us to a standstill with those human wave attacks. They don't care about losing people. I mean, Ukraine is considered a meat grinder. I mean, that whole battlefield
You're
has
right.
to smell rotten as hell from all the bodies that aren't being buried, from how they're just slaying each other out there using modern technology type weapons. I mean, it's ridiculous. That's a meat grinder like that. The average Russian soldier right now is only getting 1 week of training before they send them to Ukraine. I saw that today, and I was amazed at that. So, if they don't care no more about you than to throw you into a meat grinder with 1 week worth of training, then, hey,
They got plenty of people to replace you. So I'll
Damn
stop
straight.
there. Ukraine cannot go asymmetric warfare with Russia. Russia has way more of everything, including manpower. If they try to go 1-for-1 with Russia, they will lose. And Russia can fight, like I said, the next 10 years without even putting a dent in their economy, hardly. But I'll stop there.
Okay. Okay. Let me ask you this, Aaron, while you're talking about that. So do you think now, like I was saying before, with technology growing the way it's growing, okay, and a lot of this traditional warfare is basically the old way of dealing with stuff. I mean, so like I said, it's not just you're not just dealing with with tanks and planes and guns now. You're dealing with AI, you're dealing with cyber warfare, all of that. Do you think that on top of that, that China and Russia, they've been, for years now, they've been doing everything humanly possible to jump in, and they're trying to hack all this different stuff. I was seeing a thing today where they were talking about that China has actually hacked into a lot of these different countries, power grids,
Yep.
water systems,
Yep.
stuff like that. They said they had already tapped into these different systems, and they put little things in it to that way, like, okay, we're not going to mess with it right now, but if we ever have to, we can jump right in there and get it.
Yeah. Back doors. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like we was talking about that back when they jumped into the source code of Microsoft. We was
Right.
talking about that they was able to do that. Even though they never admitted to it. But you ain't gonna just hack into something, get into it, and then just not put nothing in it. It just don't make sense.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
when, so when
China.
we had
Go ahead. I'm
go ahead,
sorry. Sorry.
go ahead.
China clearly said they get into a war with anybody. They're bringing down the water treatment plants. They're bringing down transportation. Them cell phones aren't going to work no more. They're bringing down 9/11 systems, and they're bringing down the power grid. So you can count on those 5 things in your country not operating. And we just saw what happened with Spain, Portugal, France, and part of Belgium just recently. And I still say that was a test. And they have not come up with a reasonable explanation of that situation yet. So, yeah, it's going to get serious, and people better be preparing because that day is coming. It's more sooner than later.
That's why we've been talking to you the way that we have for the last year. We've been talking to you this way. Get prepared. We're not trying to do a scare tactic.
Nope.
We're not trying to get anybody up in arms. We're not trying to do any of that. We're not someone that's an agitator to a situation. It's like we see something that's happening as analysts,
Yeah.
and we go, you know what? For the betterment of the people that watch right here, this is what we advise. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's the beauty behind this show.
Right.
Now,
Definitely.
they were talking about I'm trying to remember exactly where I actually seen that at. But they were talking about the actual NATO forces, and that a lot of these forces was nowhere close to the technology that the U.S. had, which made the U.S. so important when it came to NATO, because they had a lot of this stuff that a lot of these countries didn't have, and they were actually getting. That's what they was actually using to be able to get some of this stuff from. So when you're dealing with, let's just say China, for instance, because I've seen the thing the other day where they had ramped up their drills going around Taiwan, and they also was seen over near Australia. So they've been amping up their drills, along with the fact, like you said, you got these you got these sanctions and everything else going on, and they've said many a times on several broadcasts that I've seen that they were not going to back down from this. So, of course, they're going to have a trip up their sleeve somewhere, And I think, like you said, Aaron, that's one of the things that they would probably do. I mean, hell, if you cut the lights out, hell, that's a big thing right there. If you cut the lights out, what else you got at that point?
Well, we beat China in a trade war under Reagan. So then we fought a trade war against them again when Trump was in office. And when Trump was in office, we were winning. And we wasn't using all the tactics that we're using right now, but we were clearly beating them. And what they do? They released COVID on the world, brought everything to a standstill. They moved from number 7 as far as the world's largest supplier to number 1. They went on past the United States in those 3 years that COVID was around. So when they were losing the war, they had a plan B that they was willing to go to. Now we're in a trade war with them again. What's their plan B going to be? People better understand it. It's for real. This ain't no game.
Right.
It's not too late to prepare. There's still time. But man, people better be waking up.
Yeah, but like I said, this has all been a strategic thing, for years. I mean, even since the first Trump administration owned up. Okay, yeah, you can give them sanctions. Okay, yeah, whatever. They just found another way to go around them. I mean, see, that's the whole thing dealing with a sanction. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you can hit me with this, but I just find another way. Just like when they threw all them sanctions on Russia, what did Russia do? Like, okay, you're gonna put the sanctions on me. What I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go over to China, and China gonna give me all the stuff that I was getting from you. I'm gonna get from China. I'm gonna get from North Korea. I'm not worried about you. You know what I mean? So all the stuff that we were doing and locking down bank accounts and all this other stuff, they were making their money on the back end. You know what I mean? And end up making way more. Like you thinking that you putting a stranglehold on them. No, you wasn't, because they were just backdooring you the whole time. You know what I mean? Which is the same thing that's going on here. And you notice China ain't really been in no quote quote fight for a long time. They just sit back, supply what they needed to supply. And then they come in when everything's over with and sweep it up, buy it dirt cheap, and okay, this mine now.
Because they make everything from 2 cents to 98 cents. You know what I mean? Yeah, of course, it's going to be a majority,
Right.
Yeah.
And see, and then a lot of these countries jump up and get this money from China, because China hits them with like, okay, we're gonna build this port for you, and we're gonna do it at this cost here, and we're gonna give you, a super low interest rate for 99 years. Then after that 99 years, if you ain't got this shit paid, then it comes back to me. Now it's mine. You know what I mean? But they make them to where they know that even with the time that they gave you, they know that you're not going to have it done in time. So eventually it's going to become mine anyway. You know what I mean? Because you actually bringing, okay, we're going to build a port for you, but we're going to use our workers. We're going to bring our people in, and we're going to run it for you. You know what I mean? So all you Chinese nationals and everybody else, because they're supposed to be building everything for you. They're the country that's actually getting the money from them. They're not building it. China's building it. And they're going to equip it. And they're going to have people there working on it. You know what I mean? So that's how they was able to take over all this stuff, just like they were trying to get their hands on the Panama Canal right now, which, even if they try that, that's going to be a war right there automatically. That ain't going to happen. But they're trying it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like they've been sticking down in South Africa. They was trying to get some stuff over in Congo, but then the U.S. turned around and signed some mineral rights here lately over in the Congo, which is kind of ironic though, because remember, I forget which show we did. We were talking about this when I said, why is it that all of a sudden all of these new viruses and illnesses and shit, everything happening over in Congo, been wiping people out.
Yeah.
And then now last week you heard them talk about the U.S. trying to make mineral rights deal in Congo. So you're trying to wipe everybody out over there, so that way you can come in and scoop up all the damn resources. You know what I mean? Which is exactly what we were saying before. But we was talking about this a few months ago, not even knowing that this is what they were doing. This just came out last week. So they've been over experimenting, dropping them quote viruses over there that's been killing people. That, you know, people been lasting what, 10, 12 days and dying off and shit. Some of them lasting 3, 4 days was dying off. You know what I mean? Just one virus after the next. But then you're gonna turn around and go over there to try to get resources. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So overall, do you think that NATO now, as it stands currently, overall, do you think that it is a betterment for our position as the United States, or do you think it is a negative effect where it's more of a liability?
I think that, personally speaking, I think you better with it than without it. I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
Because with what you got going on now, and what I'm getting ready to say, I need you to take it for face value. You know what I mean?
Sure.
We're gonna take the political shit out of it. We just gonna go face
politics,
value.
no politics involved.
Well, it's a little bit into it, but it
Okay.
leads to what I'm saying here.
Sure.
From the past, let's say 4 months, there's been a lot of transitioning going on. Okay. A lot of these countries ain't liking what's going on over here. We're making a lot of enemies. Now, mind you, when we started talking about before, when we was talking about the fact of the tariffs, and you had, you know what I mean, 75 countries automatically jumped up and try to make a deal, whatnot. Okay, that's fine. But like I said, a lot of these 75 countries that we're talking about right now are 75 countries that we was already dealing with. But what about the other 115 that we're not dealing with? Those are your problems. Now, when we start going against the ones that we were actually supposed to be friends with, like Canada, Mexico, Denmark, trying to mess with Iceland, I mean with Greenland and all that, it causes problems all the way around. What you don't want to be is the U.S. trying to defend itself against everybody, because you're not going to win. You know what I mean? Especially if you have some of these major countries back out. So if we backed out right now and said, okay, we're done with NATO, it's just going to be us, you good as hit, because there's no way that you can be able to defend everything that you got going on. You got troops in, what was it, 88 countries, Aaron? 88, 85, one of them two?
Yeah, we got bases in 88 different countries right now.
How you going to defend all that?
Bases in 88 countries. I did not know that stat.
Yeah,
And,
so
and
how
this
you
is
going
someone that comes from reporting the news every single fucking day, and I did not know that. So 88 countries, man, that's a big number.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
how you going to defend all that? You can't.
How many countries are there? There's 180.
I think 188.
188.
Yeah.
So if we've got that many bases around the globe, I mean, dude, we've got everything covered. Boom.
But we're spread thin.
Do you look at it that we're spread thin, or do you look? I mean, I look at this. Okay, so you do look at it that way.
Yeah,
I look at it as, I still look at it, even though even my audience would tell me you are not the superpower anymore, kind of thing. I would say no. We are the superpower of the world militarily. We have so much power and influence. It's not only just power, it's the influence of what we decide. So I look at that and I don't know, man. It's kind of but I still look at it as like a thick influence around the globe.
Well, let me give you an example, and I'm
Sure.
going to use China. China's been quiet. They've been making a lot of progress in the darkness. People weren't even watching them. They're growing and growing and growing. Now they have the largest military in the world. They have the largest navy in the world. Now, Bishop had pointed out in the past that some of their ships aren't as big as ours,
Sure.
which is true. They don't have the same technological advance that we do. But if you have the largest navy and it's concentrated all in the South China Sea, and ours is spread out all over the world, they can overrun you. And then China has weaponized satellites. They're up orbiting the Earth. So does Russia. So does North Korea. So does Iran. China has something called a super EMP weapon. When that satellite comes down into low Earth orbit, detonates over the United States, everything that's got a computer chip attached to it is going to be short circuited. We will lose our technological edge if they detonate that stuff over our military bases. Now, we know this, so why don't we spend the money to harden a lot of our systems and even the airlines? At any point in time, you've got close to 200,000 people that are in the air. When that super EMP weapon happens, those planes are going to drop out of the air like damn rocks.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't they harden the system to protect against the EMP? They do have stuff out there where you can buy that can do that, but nobody wants to spend the money. But you'll go waste money on foolishness, like some of the things that Doge found out about that we were giving money to countries overseas for. Why can't we harden our stuff? These countries over there are all getting ready for war, and we're sitting back thinking, that we're the king of the hill, which we are for right now. But when they start dropping them damn EMP weapons, as China's the only one's got one called super EMP, we can lose our technological edge right there. But then you got over 78 million Americans are armed with guns. If they came in here, tried to invade us, there'd be a gun behind every blade of grass. But if we let those gun control people take our guns from us, then we're wide open like France and England and them. You can go in there and invade. Public can't stand up and fight unless they're going to throw rocks. They ain't got nothing.
Right. But that we've been, the whole EMP scare has been around for a while. And they put several things out as to, exactly what all an EMP could do if it was ever detonated above the US, whatever. And then that was also during the time they was talking about North Korea having a satellite that actually goes across the US every single day.
Wait,
Right.
well, not just that. What about a solar flare?
That's the CME.
What about what now?
A solar flare.
That's a CME, coronal mass ejection from the sun. That can do it too. Mm-hmm. That created the Carrington effect. But yeah, high enough CME could take out the power grid.
Right.
Crazy.
Now, when we talking about man-made, we ain't
right.
talking
right.
The man-made take us out type deal. But like what Aaron was saying, the government has known about this for years. And now, do we know what all preparation they've actually done for it? No, we don't know that. But based on some stuff that we see that they haven't done enough. Based on what we see, just like he used the thing about the aircraft. One of them EMP go off, every aircraft that's in the sky is going to drop.
Goes down, boom. Done.
Have they put any kind of systems on there that can be able to withstand something like that? Doubt it, because there's too many computers on those flights in order to be able to, to be able to fly. Period. So there's no way that you can actually put something on there being that high up in the air to be able to withstand that. Now on the ground, maybe. In the air, no. Because like soon as it hit, everything's gonna go up anyway before it drop. It's gonna drop, then it's gonna go up. So basically gonna zap everything. I mean, a lot of these new vehicles, all that stuff, ain't none of that shit running. I mean, unless you got an old school car, old school truck, like the old school Ford,
1960s Ford,
like the old
Chevy
Ford
Chevelle.
F-150s. Yeah, they'll still run. Everything else is gonna be sitting there. It ain't about to do shit.
Yeah, we got a Chevelle over here, or we got a maybe a 1987 Corolla Camry. You'd be all right.
Well, I'm gonna say this: once we lose our technological edge, whoever can get the most troops with the most hardware to an area the quickest is going to win battles. And right now, China's keeping all their forces focused in one area, where ours is spread out all over the place. We won't be able to get them back. I mean, if EMP happens, ain't no ships going to be sailing to bring the troops back home. Ain't no planes going to be flying to bring them back home. We're going to be on our own over here.
Or to bring
And-
reinforcements to them.
Right. And look at China, look at Pakistan and India. India's got 1.4 billion people. Pakistan has 224 million people. They can go man for man and run out of population before they even put a dent into the Indian population. I mean, and the same way with us. China has 1.4 billion. We have 330 million. Without our technological edge, asymmetric warfare, we could find ourselves in some trouble. And people need to realize that.
Well, I think probably the only good part is being the fact that China is keeping them all centralized in China. That I mean, that's keeping them all in one spot. You know what I mean? So it ain't like you worried about them coming over here.
No.
So you got that part. But like I say, you are absolutely right, being the fact that, what Mike was saying about, being an actual superpower. Yes, we are a superpower. And technologically speaking, yes, we can go in and basically do whatever we got to do, you know what I mean, and be able to be on top. But like I said, if you also spread it out like you spread it out, you're going to cause, you got these little fractions, pieces of the Army here, pieces of the Navy here, pieces of the Air Force here. You know what I mean? You're going to be wore thin fast. Let's see what we got here. How worried are you about the value of the dollar going down and inflation kicking in? Will this change how you handle your money personally? Would you consider putting your money in gold? Absolutely. That's actually what me and Aaron been talking about this quite a bit. That's what we've been doing.
They've been talking about that for about a year.
Yeah. So you got to think about this. Every time gold prices go up,
thank you,
dollar
Lindsay,
drops.
by the way.
Yeah, Lindsay. Okay. Every time the gold prices go up, dollar goes down. Reason being is that the dollar right now, due to the fact we're not putting the petrodollar anymore, it's not backed under anything. So you're going to lose. So right now, that's why a lot of these countries and stuff like that is moving over to gold and silver, primarily. Now, gold right now is running. Let me see. Last I checked, it was like 32.
It's almost 35. It's gonna hit 35.
And then you got silver that's on the rise too. So, like I said, a lot of people can't buy gold. You know, I don't got $3,500 to put on an ounce of gold. So a lot of them been going over on the silver run. But what we also did was, let me pull this out right quick. Get y'all hipped on this. Like I bought it up once. Let me bring it up again.
We can't see you though. You're frozen, so you may have to leave and come back right back in.
Did it do it again?
Yeah. Unfortunately, you got frozen for the last 2 minutes or minute and a half.
Hold on a second.
All right.
Hold that.
Yeah, hold that thought.
I'll be right back.
We got it. Hey, so I appreciate everybody. Thank you for Lindsay for the $10 donation, by the way. I very much appreciate that. And I hope that was a good answer. We've been talking about gold, particularly with the economy. We've been talking about that quite a bit. So this is nothing new for our discussions. Archbishop, all right, boom, you're good.
Okay. So one of the things that me and Aaron started doing, we started buying these.
Yeah. So
These are
talk about those real quick.
so these are called gold backs. Okay. And basically what this is I'll give you the short version of it. So back before they actually started the actual US dollar, US currency that you know now, every state made their own currency, which is called a gold back. And based on the denomination, it was made out of gold. So based on whatever denomination, 1, 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, it had a certain percentage of gold that made these gold. So so once they had a actual universal established currency, then they did away with these gold backs. Well, here within the past 6 months to a year, you have five states, five, possibly 6 states now that started making these again. Why? Nobody really knows, but kind of tells you.
Yeah, that's right.
Kind of gives you that little inkling, like okay, like they know something that we don't know.
100%.
You know what I mean? So they started making them again. So like this dollar one that I have here, it has 1/1000 troy ounce of 24 karat gold. So like I said, when the gold price goes up, these go up too. Now,
how
this
many
$1,
carats? How many carats are in an ounce? I don't even know.
They're 24.
24 carats are in 1 ounce.
24 is pure gold.
Oh, pure gold. Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. So this ain't 14K or
Yeah,
10K. Like this is pure 24 karat gold.
This is 22K, like for instance, or whatever. I think it was 22K or something like that.
Yeah, so they make them in different, like you got the different states. Like I said, I got the dollar ones, but then I also got one the other day that was actually a $50. I got one of those the other day. Now, as these gold prices go up, then these go up. So when I first bought these were running like a $1 gold back was running roughly like $6. I think now they're somewhere close to what, 9, almost 10 now.
Yeah, they've moved up.
Yes. So they're growing, they're getting higher as the gold prices rise, those rise. So I've been buying like the little ounces of silver. I've been buying those, but I've been buying these gold backs as well to make up, like, okay, I'm not going to be able to pay 32, 33, 3,500 for an ounce of gold, but I can buy these gold backs and they're going to rise with the value of gold. So yeah, so that's what we've been doing. Now to get these gold backs, you can go on, there's different bullion sites that you can go on to be able to purchase these. You can also go to a lot of these businesses that's you can buy and sell coins and stuff like that. They have them as well. You have to just go in and ask for them.
So you can buy them through the state, or like who do you buy them from?
Well, you can go ahead, Aaron.
I was going to say any exchange place that sells rare gold and silver bullion as well as coins, they would have them. I like to deal with a company called SD Bullion. They always have them. And you can also buy gold in 1 gram. You can buy 2 gram sizes. If you
So you
can't
can
afford
buy
to buy
a single gram?
Yeah, you can buy a single gram. It's a
Wow.
little gold bar on a card, and it says on it what it is. So if you can't afford to buy a whole ounce, a half ounce, quarter ounce, or a tenth of an ounce, you can buy them in gold bars that are in grams. A gram would run you probably about $130 on 1 gram right now.
Right.
Yeah, so that's yes. I hope we answered your question on that. Yeah, that's what we've been doing. And And no, I'm not putting my money in no foreign banks either, because they just as messed up as we are right now.
No
So-
kidding. I was gonna ask that question a little later on, but you did it right there. Boom. I have the same stance as you. Yep.
I have a saying that I tell people: if you can't hold it, you don't own it. So
100%.
if somebody else has it, possession's 9/10 of the law.
Yep.
So if you can hold it in your hand, keep it at home.
Yep.
If you can't hold it, you don't own it.
I couldn't have
Yep.
said that better.
Yeah, so we're approaching the 110 mark, so we're gonna bring it down to a close. But like I said, I hope everybody actually take heed to a lot of the stuff that's going on. Like I said, we talk about it all the time, but if you start paying attention to what's being said, and then once you hear what's being said, think about what's not being said.
Sure.
Because anywhere you go, nobody's going to actually tell you every single thing that's going on. They're not going to tell you, and there's reasons for that. Because if you really want to sink the economy quick, go out there and actually tell them the truth about this and see what happens.
Right.
And see how quick everything bottoms out. So of course they're not going to tell you everything. So what you need to do is, like I said, prepare yourself, get your family in order, get yourself in order. Because when something like this does happen, at least you have a fighting chance. You know what I mean? If you've gotten stuff together early, as opposed to waiting until something actually goes on. Like I said, you can just do a little bit at a time. They ain't like you got to go out and spend a whole bunch of money at one time.
Right. Not
you know what I
20
mean?
grand in one sitting.
Right. Just make a weekly goal. Do some stuff. Okay, we're gonna get this little stuff together here. Get this little stuff together here. You know, we're not out spending no big money on none of this stuff. It's just a little bit at a time. You know what I mean? But like I said, just a little bit at a time now, it adds up. And when something does go on, and based on everything that's going on around the world right now, something is definitely going to go on. And the reason why it's going to go on, because war makes a lot of money. It ain't for the nations to make this money. I mean, you got to think about it. You got the whole little pyramid going on there, dealing with the how do you say, the people that's how can I put it? The people that's really running everything, the behind the scene people that you know nothing about.
Super elites.
Right.
Not even elites. The super elites. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you got the Council of Foreign Relations, you got the Trilateral Commission.
It's like four layers deep.
Exactly.
In the height where nobody sees it.
Exactly.
You're right.
So you got them, you got the Rothschild, like Aaron said, you got the Bilderberg Group, you got the UN, you got the Royal Institute of Internal Affairs. You got that whole little round table right there. They're the ones that decide what goes on. They're the ones that decide who's going to do what. Because, like I said, war is profitable for them. War is a lucrative business for them, but not for you. You're going to be the one to pay the price. So, like I said, thank everyone for coming out like always. Don't forget, like, follow, share, subscribe. Hit that like button. Guys, go on Mike's side, come on my side. Hit that like button. That's actually more valuable than money right now, because that gets
no kidding
show out in the right algorithm, being able to stretch out to more people can be able to see it. So just go on and go on both sides, hit that like button, share it if you can, if you will, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you more than anything. Like I said, every week we come out, we try to hit it. We try to put out as much information as we can put out, but we putting it out, just because we know it, we know you may not know it.
Right.
So we want to get it out to be able to, like I said, if we can save as many people as we can from something that can potentially go on, then that's what this is about. And that's what we're going to continue to do.
As factual as possible too. Right.
Right. I mean, of course they don't like it. I mean, hell, it took I mean, how many times would they demonetize? I mean, they wouldn't even monetize this show for over a year.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because of what we were saying. And then now I guess they're just like, oh, hell with it. Just go and give it to them.
100%.
You know what I mean? But they still come after me.
They at first they were calling you a Russian, and they were they're doing everything to not pay you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they did everything humanly possible not to monetize the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then eventually they're just like, yeah, all right, just go and give it to him. He's just gonna keep talking about it.
Yeah, Archbishop looks like a Russian, everybody,
Right. Right. But but thanks everyone once again for everything. Thank you for the ones that contributed to the show. That helps us keep the bills paid and keep us on every week. So appreciate everyone who done that as well. So I will see you guys in 7 days. Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, again, I want to reiterate, we're into the sanctions. We're in a price war with China right now. The end of this month, you're going to start seeing shortages starting to happen on store shelves. I, as a vendor, am already experiencing those shortages. So I can tell you for a fact they're coming. If they don't end this trade war soon, there's a lot of things made overseas that isn't going to make it into this country. So if you want these things, read on your packages, country of origin, and figure out if you need to be stockpiling. Because if you use these items on a monthly basis, you better be stocking up. And at the same time, live below your means. Because once we get into this, you don't want to be living at your means. You don't want to be living above your means. Live below your means and hold on to your money because you're going to need it. And I'll stop there.
I love how Aaron points out you can't live at your means. You got to live well below your means and keep that. Like, you don't need to flex on everyone, man. You know what I mean? You don't need to do nothing. You got nothing to prove to nobody. Keep that shit in your bank if you can. You know what I mean? As much as humanly possible. But listen, man, you got to live below your means. If you're sitting here going, I want to go out and do this, and listen, man, forget the Uber Eats, deliveries. Forget the going out every single night. Like, hang back a little bit. You know what I mean? You guys are going to need it. So with that being said, everyone, thank you guys for hanging out with us. Much love and respect to everybody. And listen, if you guys are on my side, stick around. We're going to be rating our buddy Tom Foolery. We're going to be rating our buddy over there. So anyway, stick around for that. Archbishop and Aaron, I can't thank you guys enough. As always, you guys always bring the heat. As always, I always appreciate that. And until next Wednesday in 7 days, we'll see you guys. Much love, honor, respect to everybody, and we'll see you guys in a little bit.
Right.
They're back.